Chivas Brothers was originally an emporium or a grocery store run by James and John Chivas, who are the Chivas Brothers.
Growing up in India, this was a bottle that you saw at the bar for pretty much every, like high-end party or function out there.
For example, the likes of Chivas XV has been selectively finished in Grand Champagne cognac casks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Discover series with the Whisky Advisor. I'm Uday Balaji. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic Scotch blends out there. We're going to be discovering all things Chivas Regal with brand ambassador Jordan Edwards. Hey Jordan, how are you? Great to see you again.
Yeah, I'm doing very well, Uday. Thanks for having me back again. It's always a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is always ours. But guys, just before we jump into it, please like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you'll know every time we have a new video on here. So, Jordan, what do you have in your glass today?
So I've got a dram of Chivas 12 today, the classic whiskey from the Chivas family. Very good. Very nice. So we've got a dram of Chivas 12 to kick things off.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. Slanger. So just picking this bottle back up, growing up in India, this was a bottle that you saw at the bar for pretty much every, like high-end party or function out there. And it just got such a big following in India and such a strong loyalty. Some people will drink only Chivas, which is absolutely amazing. This is a childhood thing that I saw for 3 decades. Childhood and adulthood thing. But could you tell us a little more about the history of Chivas Brothers and Chivas Regal, please, John?
Yeah, of course. And you're absolutely right, Uday, with the, Chivas having a real place within Indian culture and being such a popular luxury whiskey. It was actually something that really astonished me when I first arrived in India. It was just how popular and it was and how it was held in such high regard by Indian people. So it's amazing to see. And yeah, Chivas Brothers, Chivas Regal, go back, centuries, really. Chivas Brothers was originally an emporium or a grocery store run by James and John Chivas, who are the Chivas Brothers, of course, which evolved into the Chivas Brothers that we know today, which is the parent company of a magnificent portfolio of Scotch whisky brands, and of course Chivas Regal falling under that as well. So Chivas Regal, the inception of Chivas Regal was back in 1909, so over 110 years ago now. And the first ever Chivas was Chivas 25-year-old, released in 1909, being the world's first luxury whiskey at that as well. So you can imagine, way back in 1909, there really wasn't many 25-year-old whiskies in the market, just as there is today. So it really was something unique in terms of its luxurious nature way back then. And it just shows the ambition and the pioneering spirit of the Chivas Brothers to inspire a whiskey as special as this, and the first of its kind, really. But the grocery store, the emporium that was run by James and John during the 19th century, it was run during the bulk of the 19th century. It was known itself for supplying some of the finest quality goods you could find across Scotland, from exotic teas to fine wines and spirits. It really was a purveyor of fine quality goods. And soon Queen Victoria and the royal family caught wind of the Chivas Brothers and the fine quality goods they were selling, and supplied James Chivas with a royal warrant way back in 1843. So there's been royal ties to Chivas Brothers and Chivas Regal whiskey that we know today. And the name Chivas Regal, people will always know Chivas Regal as perhaps just Chivas. Chivas being the surname of the brothers, and then Regal, almost a tribute to the Regal, the royal history of the Chivas Brothers and Chivas Regal whiskey. So that's where the name comes from. So certainly steeped in heritage, and a whiskey that is held in high regard today as well.
It's amazing to think that the first whiskey was a 25-year-old back then. That's quite something. And guys, also Jordan just touched upon that Chivas Brothers has a whole lot of brands. You guys should go and look up the brands. I'm going to put the website down at the end. You will be amazed by the heavy hitting brands that are on that website and part of the Pernod Ricard portfolio. But talking about one of those brands, when anybody talks about, what a Scotch whiskey distillery should look like, what is the quintessential design of a Scotch whiskey distillery? Most whiskey enthusiasts will only come up with one answer, and that is the Strathisla distillery. I had the good fortune to drive by it when I was in Scotland, but didn't actually go in, which I will the next time, because not only is it a single malt distillery, but it's also considered the home of Chivas, isn't it? Could you tell us a little more about that, Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, Strathisla is just the most beautiful distillery in Scotland with its twin pagoda rooftops. It really is the most picturesque distillery that you could think of. And it is the home of Chivas Regal as well, despite the fact that it is a single malt distillery. So Strathisla is actually the oldest continuously operating distillery in the Scottish Highlands, which is also incredible. Established way back in 1786. And I know, Scotch whisky, distilleries in Scotch whisky history goes way back, but even 1786 is a long way back for Scotch whisky standards. So it's been going a long, long time. And it is the single malt that you'll find at the heart of all Chivas Regal blends as well. So a very important single malt in the Chivas blend, ultimately helping define the overall character of the Chivas blend. Chivas whiskies adopting that sweet, fruity, floral style of whiskey, and Strathisla is integral in defining that. And also a high portion of Speyside single malts go into the Chivas blend, again helping define that sweet, fruity, floral style as well. But Strathisla single malt, it has the distillery itself has short bulbous copper pot stills, which allows for a fruity but quite a full-bodied single malt at the heart of Chivas. And the distillery also has a wonderful visitor centre as well, with many different tour options. You've got your classic distillery tour, and then you've got your more in-depth tours, perhaps for the connoisseurs, like the warehouse or the cellar tasting, sorry. And then one thing that is particularly unique about Strathisla Distillery is the blend tour that we offer, the blending session that you can do there, whereby you can essentially blend your own Scotch whisky, which is super cool, it's super fun, and it just gives you an idea of the skill, behind the likes of your master blenders when it comes to creating a blended whisky. During those blending sessions, you could perhaps choose to recreate Chivas 12 or a blend of your own. But it's really good fun. But yeah, it does give you insight into how skillful these blenders are in creating our fine whiskies.
I've actually seen pictures of those kind of like those glass beakers that are used in the blends, and I'm like, it just blows my mind. I've got to do that next time because it just looks so. It's like the mad scientist's lab, That's what I keep thinking of when I see it. So it looks really cool. Got to give it a shot. But talking about Strathisla, and you did mention that some of the Speyside whiskies go in as well. What would be the key malt and grain components of Chivas? At least what you can reveal.
So yeah, there is two whiskies that are integral to all the Chivas blends. First and foremost, Strathisla single malt, very, very important, and then Strathclyde single grain as well. So for the viewers out there, Strathclyde being a grain whiskey distillery, people might be a bit more unfamiliar with grain whiskey distilleries, but they're very, very important when it comes to creating blended Scotch whiskies. So we have Strathisla single grain at the heart of, a really important component of the Chivas blend. alongside Strathisla. It's a bit of a secret, a bit of a mystery what other Speyside whiskies go into the Chivas blend, you know, again, helping define its style. But Longmorn is actually a very important single malt and a key single malt within the Chivas 18 whiskey in particular. So yeah, Longmorn very important when it comes to creating the Chivas 18-year-old blend.
Oh, that's great to know. I had no idea that Longmorn was in Chivas. So I got to go grab a bottle of the Chivas 18 soon then. But talking about the Chivas 18, I see you got a couple of bottles behind you. Could you just take us through the Chivas range, Jordan, and also mention which all are there in India, if possible?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, so we've got an ever-growing range of whiskies. I would say the main whiskies that we have to be honest, we have almost the entire portfolio in India. From 12-year-old, my bottle's a little bit more empty than your one, sadly. And then the likes of Chivas XV as well, which is one of our more recent introductions to the Chivas family. Chivas 18, of course, as well. And then from there onwards, we have the likes of Chivas Extra, Chivas Altis, which is our blended malt, which sort of stands unique within the Chivas family. And then Chivas 25-year-old as well, which is the original legend, which has been based upon the original Chivas 25 released way back in 1909. So they're the whiskies that we primarily have available in India. But also, just while talking about the flavors that come with each of these whiskies, it's important to note that Chivas is really leading the way in terms of innovation when it comes to Scotch whiskey. For example, the likes of Chivas XV has been selectively finished in Grand Champagne cognac casks, which will give it an extra layer of flavour and extra complexity. And that's just really the beginning in terms of innovation. We've seen the new Chivas Extra 13-year-old range, which is a range of 4 different whiskies, all different cask finishes, ranging from tequila cask finishes to rum, American rye, and so on. So it's a really interesting time for Chivas in the Scotch whisky industry, bringing all these different cask finishes and these different flavours to the fore. Sadly, I've not been able to try all the new extra 13-year-old whiskies. They're still making their way across the world, so hopefully they'll reach India soon. But it is certainly interesting. But I think one thing that is common across the range is that sweet fruity style, whether it's the 12-year-old with its orchard fruits and its honey, and then the XV, for example, brings quite a spicy and rich characteristic. And then Chivas 18, I think, speaks for itself. My favourite from the family, famously with 85 flavour notes in every drop, which was Colin Scott himself, our former master blender, had noted that he could identify 85 flavours in Chivas 18. So some really great whiskies across the board.
That is something to aspire to, 85 notes from a drop of whiskey. Yeah, I hope I get there someday, but we're talking about stories. So there's this cousin of mine who he's not a big whiskey drinker, primarily a beer drinker. And the other day he starts quizzing me about Chivas Regal, and I was like, where is this coming from? But he is a huge Manchester United fan, and he'd come across his limited edition Manchester United bottling by Chivas, and that's where it all came from. I had no idea until then. Could you just tell us a little bit about this Manchester United partnership, Jordan?
Of course, yeah. Chivas do have a Manchester United partnership, and if you've been watching the Premier League recently, you'll see, on the advertising boards at the side of the pitch, you'll always see Chivas come up on the advertising boards. So yeah, we've had a partnership with Manchester United for some time now. The Chivas motto being, success is a blend, not just in Scotch, but in life too, which relates directly to Manchester United being the most successful club in English football and one of the most famous clubs across the world, really. You know, they're just massive, Manchester United. So just that Man United are a blend of personalities and a blend of players coming together to, you know, for glory. Just as Chivas is a blend of whiskies coming together, and a blend of people and personalities behind Chivas, making sure that it is as great as it is. So a strong partnership there between Chivas and Man United. And as you said as well, there is some special edition whiskies as well, Chivas Man United whiskies, such as the 20-year-old Chivas Altis, which has a 1999 vintage that was released just last year, and 1999 being the vintage, because that was a very important year for Manchester United as well, being the treble winners and the only treble winners ever in English football. So I think it's a good tribute to that famous year and that famous night in Barcelona. And Man United fans will know exactly what I'm talking about.
In fact, I do, because that was around the time that my cousin was trying to get me into football. But I'm still yet to, even though I lived in Barcelona for a couple of years and was a big fan of Barcelona at that time, I still never really got into the game. But there's still time left, right? But for all your Manchester United fans, so that's something interesting to look for, guys. It's a beautiful bottle as well. I saw it on the website. So if you want to gift something, that's a great option right there. But just to close out, Jordan, you have some very exciting news for us. Okay, would you like to share?
I will be moving from my current role as Chivas brand ambassador and moving into a role within Chivas Brothers blending team very soon. So really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what is behind the great whiskies such as Chivas Regal, and seeing how they are pieced together. It'll be really interesting, as a whiskey lover, a whiskey fan. I just can't wait to get my teeth into it.
That's absolutely fantastic. What a privilege it's going to be. Many congratulations from all of us. And so maybe it's time to get to know Jordan a little better. So you'll get a little more secrets beyond just Strathisla and Longmont. I'm just saying. But Jordan, it's such a pleasure as always having you here. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. But guys, as always, if you'd like to get in touch with Jordan, all his details are down below, and a whole lot of details about Chivas Brothers, Chivas Regal, Strathisla, and so on. So just reach out, whatever information you want, just please drop a message. But Jordan, any words for us before you head out?
Yeah, just once again, Uday, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure as always chatting all things whiskey, all things Scotch. Thank you very much for having me. And until the next time, cheers.
Cheers, and wish you all the best in your new position.
Thanks very much, Uday. That's very kind of you.
Cheers. So guys, it was another lovely episode. It's such a pleasure to have Jordan here. Hopefully one day we'll be able to go down to Strathisla and ask him to show us how the blending is done. But until then, guys, please like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so every time we have a new video on here. And cheers. Have a great day.